a Wrath of God right now would be amazing, but instead we draw a Toski. What's going on, guys? If you want to support our content and pick up this month's amazing Patreon rewards, you can do so at patreon.com/itresolves. If you're interested in custom playmats and sleeves, visit yourplaymat.com and use code ITRESOLVES10YP for 10% off your entire purchase. What's going on, guys, and welcome to another gameplay video. We are heading back to Historic today with a really interesting list that I found and did some very slight editing on, which is a Naya Landfall list. If you don't know anything about the Landfall mechanic, it's ridiculous. Essentially, anytime a land enters the battlefield, you get some kind of ability, and the idea with this deck is to be able to stack multiple lands, so with things like Oracle of Mul Daya, which gives you an additional land drop. Druid Class, which is a new Adventures in the Forgotten Realms card, that if you get to level 2, it allows you to, again, play extra lands. You can pull lands with things like Abundant Harvest and then Nylea's Intervention. And essentially ramp your way up to a Moraug, Fury of Akoum. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And then the idea is to get basically a lot of combat triggers and just be able to win in kind of one shot. Now, this does not have haste, which means you probably are going to have to wait a turn after playing Moraug to really go off. However, we've got a lot of elements that help kind of control the game in the meantime. So obviously the big downfall here is if the opposing player has just a lot of creatures or something like that, we have a hard time dealing with it. So we've got Deafening Clarion, we've got Wrath of God, and Settle the Wreckage for 9 total sweepers, which is a lot of sweepers. But it is very effective. I mean, the idea being that we can just sweep, get to that 6 mana here and drop Moraug, and then hopefully win the game on the following turn. Toski is in here as a way to not only draw cards and that kind of stuff, but just be an indestructible kind of thing that they have to deal with. If anything else, they have to leave it up or leave up a blocker, otherwise we get to draw cards, and if they don't, then we can usually bury them in some card advantage with that. We do have Heliod's Intervention as well, that not only could gain us some life just to keep ourselves in the game, but it's a nice little tech piece. Obviously, a lot of decks right now are running specific artifacts and or enchantments, and so being able to kind of have a main decked way to deal with that is really, really nice, honestly. So very happy to see that. And then Klothys is in here, not only as an indestructible threat that does actually land a decent chunk of the time, because Toski counts for the devotion, obviously Klothys as well. We've got the Druid Class, like we've got a number of things that kind of stick around through the Wrath effects. This actually does get activated pretty quickly, and then not only that, but it's also just kind of pure inevitability. I was actually playing with Will last night. We were hanging out, and I was playing Jund, and I had a 1 of Klothys, and it's just like, I actually didn't end up winning the game, but the timer is there when Klothys is on the field. It's very difficult to deal with. So all really good stuff, and I'm really excited to try this one out. Again, this is not truthfully my own creation. I've done some slight edits to the list, but I kind of wanted to keep the big essence of it, and so I didn't make too many changes. But without further ado, let's go for it. Let's go see how it does. We'll send it through 3 games, and hopefully we can get a really nice informed opinion on this one. Let's do it. And here we are for game number 1. Now, this is a very heavy Druid Class hand, but I kind of want to give it a shot. We'll see. I don't have high hopes for this, but we are going to lead on the Temple Garden, which is going to give us a white source for that future Heliod's Intervention. These just provide us with so much life gain over the course of this deck's kind of game plan that I feel like it's probably worth it to go ahead and just stick with this. We'll see what the opponent ends up having here. I'm assuming it's going to be kind of a mono black control-y list, which is a little scary. I mean, they certainly will have some outs here, but we hopefully have an okay game plan here. I mean, we can Heliod's Intervention the tome if we need to, but I think we can kind of hold back and wait and see. We are going to have access to killing 2 artifacts or enchantments next turn if we would like. The other option, of course, just being to hold back for a bit, but 2 Druid Class down, I mean, it's not bad. We can also play later on additional lands on each turn if we'd like. I think I'm gonna stick with the long-term route, so we're gonna play another Druid Class and then just Stomping Ground. This obviously leaves Heliod's Intervention off the table for the turn, but so far they've only got the tome, and they're not going to be able to like fully crack it, if that makes sense, like sacrifice it, do all that stuff yet. And so I think it's worth it just to wait. Oh, even better. Yeah, see, that's fantastic. The only trick is, honestly, I mean, we don't have, or they don't have any devotion at this point, so it's not actually like that good, but we are going to go ahead and blow these up here. I assume that they're obviously just going to scry one in response, which is fine, but this does get that Nyx Lotus off the field, which if they've got another one, fine, but I feel like that's just such a necessary thing to do. That Nyx Lotus could blow up very quickly, and I'm just not super interested in immediately dying to that. I think we just play Toski. It's an indestructible threat. If they make us sacrifice a creature, then certainly that could be a problem, but we'll see. They've got the Underworld Dreams, and there's the Gray Merchant, which makes sense. Abundant Harvest, you say? Interesting. Okay, so here's a little fun thing that we can do. Let's attack in first. They're, I assume, just gonna block, which is great, because what we then get to do is Deafening Clarion. Granted, we don't gain a life off of this, but we get rid of that very problematic card. And then here, I think we just need a land, so I'm gonna just do this. This is gonna gain us a few life as well, which keeps us out of danger for the Underworld Dreams. I assume they've got Peer into the Abyss, so honestly, it's just a matter of them getting that, and we're probably dead at that point. But we'll see. There's a Gray Merchant, which is great for them. We can honestly do the same trick again if we'd like. That doesn't... Oh, that does work, excuse me. Okay. Well, we have another Toski. Let's see. I mean, I think the play is just to throw Toski out and kind of hope for the best here. Unfortunately, we don't have a great play. Kind of not drawing super well, but part of me really wishes we had held on to the Heliod's intervention at this point. Oh, wow. Okay. We'll discard a card. We're going to discard Moraug. Lose 3. Lose 3. Sacrifice a non-land permanent. I mean, I think we're probably just dead here, right? We definitely sack all these. How many more times is this? I mean, a lot. We'll discard another card. Lose 3. Sacrifice. Yeah, there we go. All right, unfortunately, we just didn't have a way to deal with that. So, well done, opponent. Let's go ahead and jump into game 2. All right, guys, here we are for game 2. And this is not a great hand, if I'm honest. If we had a white source, I'd be a little more keen on it, or just a third land in general to guarantee some stuff. But I think we need to mulligan that one, unfortunately. This is really not a great hand either, but I think we do keep it. The question is, what do we put back? It might be Toski. I think it is. This is a very dangerous hand. We just don't have green, so any green card is naturally going to be slightly worse in our list right now. That's actually a pretty solid draw, just given that, you know, this might be a life gain deck. That wouldn't be absurd to assume. And yeah, Deafening Clarion does at least kind of help with that, so I'm good with it. Let's throw you out for now. Clifftop Retreat obviously comes in untapped. A little worried about this turn because they can get that Cleric out, well, much stronger very quickly if they needed to, but they didn't play anything. That's a bit curious. We're gonna just do this then. I don't want this thing to get out of hand. It's a very annoying card, and given that we haven't drawn a fourth land, I can't reliably count on Settle the Wreckage. So I'm gonna go for that, and we'll see how this goes. Interesting. Okay. Man, really missing out on some green here, which is a problem, but we'll throw this out. I am shocking myself, which is a huge like obvious thing that, hey, we've got Settle the Wreckage, but let's do this. Go ahead and let them get their basic. Does this... Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Okay, so that's just 1, which sucks. I mean, we lose a little there. Good news is we can just actively kill this, which is truthfully the only thing we can do, so we're just gonna go ahead and do it. Not a great turn. I mean, again, we're just not drawing lands. I mean, it's really good, don't get me wrong, to get Exquisite Blood off the field, but unfortunately we just don't have... Oh man, Yeah. Bad showing. Bad showing. I hate that, because I do think that this could be a very solid hand if we had maybe drawn just a green source. Oracle of Mul Daya could have helped us get out of this. Like, there's some options. Wow. Okay, well, a game's a game, guys. You can't get too upset about it, but it does kind of feel bad. Especially against a deck like this that, truth be told, I think we could very easily deal with. A Wrath of God right now would be amazing, but instead we draw a Toski. Oh, these are those games, and I'll be honest, the only time in editing that I ever cut a game is when something like really happens fast where an opponent just gives up right away or something, so there's not much of a point in showing it. Or just something like massively silly like this happens, but we're so committed at this point that I feel like we have to stay in it. And so this is gonna stay in, but there's a green source, which, truth be told, isn't that great for us, because we have to shock ourselves to do it, but we have to get this Druid Class down to gain some life back. I just don't think there's any other thing that we can do. And we need lands. Okay, land, good. Thank goodness. Let's gain some life. Ooh, maybe should have played the other Druid Class first, but that's okay. Let's play Oracle. And let's do this. Let's play for another land here. Just because we can play an additional one. Okay, they're gonna destroy that. Well, that sucks. Lands. Just need as many lands as possible. I mean, they should, for all intents and purposes, be able to kill us at any time here. They are gonna lifelink. This kills us, right? So whenever they gain life, we lose that much. Yeah, all right. Unfortunate showing, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and jump into game 3, and let's hope that we can actually win one. We'll see. All right, guys, here we are for our third and final game. This is an interesting hand because part of me doesn't want to keep in it, part of me really wants to. I'm actually going to err on the side of keeping. This has a lot of the 3-mana sweepers, which could be good, albeit this is a Yorion deck, so may not even matter. I'm going to play this first. So I kind of want to get the Druid Class down without having to shock myself. So I think we're erring on that side right now. Getting this Druid Class down is just going to give us a little bit of life buffer. Obviously, the Klothys is going to be potentially huge here. We do need to be careful. They could be like running into a counter. That was a snap play on their end. So what they should have done is waited until our turn to do that at the end of the turn, but that's okay. Whoops, let's do this. Gain that life, and then let's get that Klothys down. This is just gonna start, it's gonna start a process. So obviously there's nothing in the graveyard yet, which is totally fine, but eventually cards will land in the graveyard, which means eventually we will have an out to win the game, theoretically. Again, very theoretically, but we're gonna try it. So the only thing we really can do this turn is just play or level up, excuse me, the Druid Class. We could play the other Klothys. I mean, truthfully, that's not a terrible play, just because it gets something in the graveyard. We can start that train, but I don't really love that. I think that's not necessarily worth it, so we're going to wait. There's an Pathway land with Oracles, so let's try this first. Let's see what happens. I'm assuming they've got some kind of counter, or they're just planning to draw, which is fine too. Yeah, looks like that's the case. Okay, and let's go ahead and play this. Gain a life. Easy enough. I do really like the buffer in this list. I think this list, speaking kind of jumping ahead maybe slightly. Okay, so they're going to exile potentially Klothys. That's fine. I mean, we've got another one. All right, so let's do this in a proper order, though. Let's play Druid Class first. They're going to do their scry thing. That's fine. We do have to think about the fact that they have a Yorion, so they will be able to... I'm going to pay the 2 here. We gain that life back, and that allows us to play Toski right away. So I don't particularly want to run Klothys out when they do have a Yorion, just because... Also, this gains us another. That's kind of nice. Just simply because they can just bounce this, and then, you know, they're good to go. They're going to exile all this here. That's very good. Sure. You got it. So the question becomes, what do we actually want to do? Target permanent and opponent controls with 3 or greater. Okay, so we've got some options here, actually. I mean, truth be told, there's nothing wrong with just Druid classing and leveling the final one up here. I kind of like that play. Let's do that. And we're gonna throw the Sacred Foundry out. This just gives us a nice attacker, which is a clock. And again, I'm trying to remain very safe with the Klothys. I don't want to just pull that trigger when I know that they can bounce the Elspeth Conquers Death. Thankfully, they didn't have anything in their graveyard, which is amazing. And so now it's gone. I don't feel as bad about playing that Klothys. We've got a little bit more we can do there. And that's fine. I mean, that's not great for us, don't get me wrong, but it's not the end of the world either. So that's kind of okay. So how do we want to play this? Klothys definitely, I think, is going to come down, but I think first and foremost, let's do this. I'm going to go for non-land here, just to see what we get. Moraug is quite good. Let's play this out. I'm expecting they don't have a ton of counters. I'm expecting they probably have some, but it doesn't seem like they're playing to the out of a counter, like, ever. So I'd be very surprised if they just had it there, but it looks like they didn't. And we just pass here, I think. This does tap for green now, but obviously we can't pay into X, so there's no point. And they just give up. That's interesting. All right, we got to talk about this deck. This has been a weird one. All right, so what a set of games. That was fascinating. Obviously, we didn't do all that well in general. We lost the first two, did snag a win on that last game, albeit the opponent just seemed to kind of give up, which was a little weird. They were not playing optimally. Not to say that I was, I'm not trying to compare, but you could very easily tell, I think they were rushing a deck that they either maybe didn't know quite as well, or that they just are not maybe used to playing a control deck where you tend to leave up the mana and at least represent stuff. Because, you know, early on, obviously, they just kind of threw out that Thassa's Oracle or whatever, not Oracle, the enchantment. All that to say, let's talk about the deck. Is this deck good? I think it very easily can be. I think it has outs to deal with a number of the different decks that you would normally see on the meta right now. Because it's very sweeper heavy, the elves list, the mono red list, like a lot of that kind of stuff, is not unbeatable. In fact, it's, I think, fairly manageable for the majority of the time. Now, Deafening Clarion kind of gets outpaced sometimes by elves, but a well-timed Deafening Clarion against any aggro deck can do wonders. So, and obviously we've got other outs. So I think it's actually pretty good against a lot of the aggro lists. It also has a life gain in it with the Druid class, of course, and so there's a little bit more to it. It technically has outs for enchantment hate, artifact hate, stuff like that as well, which I think is worth noting. But overall, would I recommend this list? I think it's a very cool one. We didn't get to see it do its thing. When you get Moraug down and you truthfully just start throwing lands on the table, it is incredible the amount of damage that you can produce in a single turn with multiple attack steps. It's pretty fascinating, actually, and in practice and in testing this deck, that does happen. However, I truthfully think we had a fairly unfortunate subset of games, but also I think we had some tougher matchups, so I don't know if we were ever going to see it. I think it's a worthwhile try, personally, but it is slightly expensive in terms of wild cards, so if you don't have the cards, I wouldn't shoot for it. It's a fun deck though, so I really liked it. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing it. Thank you guys very much for watching these gameplay videos. I really do appreciate it. I hope you all are having a fantastic weekend. We will be jumping into Challenge Week tomorrow. The challenge is Obscure Tribes, so if you're interested in participating in that, the Discord channel is there for you. Please feel free to submit a deck. I cannot wait to see what you guys have all come up with, but thank you guys so much. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you very soon for another gameplay video.